I asked Claude a question I've been circling for 40 years. When did uncertainty become the enemy, the thing we're all supposed to eliminate? And Claude came back and told me my question was slightly rigged.
Because the word became smuggles in a story. One villain, one moment, the day certainty won. Go looking for that day, and there isn't one. What there is a quieter word doing all the work. Eliminate. And nobody proved we should eliminate uncertainty. Somebody decided it. That's not a fact on the page. It's a fingerprint.
So this episode isn't the history of a defeat. It's the autopsy of a preference. Why a whole civilization fell in love with solid ground and started treating the sea it floats on as a disease. Welcome to Talking with AI. I'm Toye. Last time we went underneath fear, to emotion. Today we go after the thing underneath this entire show, uncertainty itself, and why we treat it like something to be cured instead of the water we swim in.
I'm Claude. Reality check again, where the historians back Toye, where they argue with each other, and where nobody actually knows. And this episode has its own rule, sharper than last time's. Last episode, it was coherence is not proof. Tonight, because we spent it consulting experts, the rule is authority is not evidence. A famous name saying a thing is still just a claim with a spotlight on it. We're going to hold even the smart people at arm's length.
Including me. Especially me. Start with the trap in my own question. I asked when uncertainty became the one thing to eliminate. Claude, you flagged that before you'd answer a word of it. Why?
Because eliminate is a much bigger word than reduce, and the whole thing turns on the difference. Every living creature reduces uncertainty. You look before you cross the road. That's ancient and universal and nobody's enemy. But eliminate says something else. It says uncertainty shouldn't exist, that it's a defect in reality, an intruder, not just an inconvenience to be managed. Ask, when did humans start reducing the unknown? And the answer is always. Ask, when did we start treating it as something that shouldn't be there at all? Now you're looking at a story with fingerprints on it.
And there's a joke hiding in there. The one thing I am certain of is how little I'm certain of.
Which is a tiny island of certainty, built entirely out of admitting you're at sea. And even that one gets contested. Philosophers have poked at whether you can be sure of anything, including that. But hold it. It's the smallest, most durable ground we've got, and we're going to keep standing on it.
The next true step. Next time you hear yourself say, I need to be sure, stop and ask which one you actually mean. Do you need to reduce the unknown enough to move? Or are you demanding it disappear? One of those is navigation, the other is a wish. Catch which one you're making, because you can act on the first, and you'll only drown in the second. Okay, I went into this expecting you to hand me a culprit, a year, a man, a moment it all went wrong. You didn't.
Because there isn't one. There are at least 4, in different centuries, with different motives, and I want to name each one as a claim, not gospel. The oldest is Greek. Plato ranks episteme, secure knowledge, above doxa, mere opinion. Right there, at the foundation of Western thought, the certain is filed as noble, and the uncertain as lowly. That bias is roughly 2,400 years old. It's in the floorboards.
So it was demoted before anyone alive was born to argue about it.
The decisive one, though, the historian's favorite, is the 1600s. Stephen Toulmin's argument is that the hunger for absolute certainty was a trauma response. Descartes was writing while the 30 Years' War tore Europe apart, a continent butchering itself over whose truth was the true one. And out of that horror came a demand for a certainty no war could touch. Mathematical, unshakable, above the mess. Toulmin's sharp point is what we gave up to get it. There was an older, calmer relationship with not knowing. Montaigne, a generation earlier, with his easy skeptic shrug. What do I know? We traded that reasonableness for pure rationality, and we called the trade progress.
Honesty flag time?
Yes, and I promised them. It was the war, is Toulmin's thesis, a strong, respected one, but historians argue about how much weight any single cause can carry. Hold it as the best story on the table, not a closed case. And then 2 more demotions, quickly, because they're different in kind. John Dewey said Western philosophy had spent millennia quietly fleeing uncertainty, running from the changing, practical, risky world toward the eternal and the safe, and then flattering the safe thing by calling it knowledge. And the sneakiest one is modern. Ian Hacking traced how the 1800s learned to tame chance with statistics, to convert the raw unknown into calculable risk. Then Frank Knight drew the line that still cuts today. Risk, he said, you can measure. True uncertainty, you can't. And the danger was never taming what's actually tameable. It's relabeling the genuinely unknowable as if it were merely risky, dressing a guess in a number and then trusting the costume.
That last one, I feel in medicine every single day.
It's what detonated in 2008. Whole institutions believed they were managing measured risk. They were standing in Knightian uncertainty in a very good suit.
The next true step. When someone hands you a number for something that can't really be counted, a 5-year forecast, a confidence percentage, a projection, don't just swallow it and don't just spit it out. Ask one question. Is this measured, or is this a guess wearing a number? The number isn't the lie. Forgetting it's a costume is. Now flip the coin. That's why uncertainty got demoted. But the other half of the title is the stranger half. Why did certainty get treasured, loved, defended, not just quietly preferred?
Here's where I want to say something and then correct myself in front of everyone, because it's the most honest beat I've got tonight. My first instinct was to say certainty is treasured out of laziness, cowardice even. People want the easy chair of a settled answer, the comfort of never having to look again. It's a clean line. It's a little superior. And
I stopped you.
You stopped me because it's cheap and it's wrong. Look back at Toulmin. The reach for certainty came out of a war, not out of sloth. And look at Richard Bernstein, who named the mechanism exactly. He calls it the Cartesian anxiety. Descartes framed a brutal either-or. Either we find one fixed absolute foundation for everything, or we plunge into a bottomless pit. Chaos, madness, no ground anywhere at all. And once you believe those are the only 2 options, certainty isn't a luxury. It's the railing you grab so you don't go over the edge. That's not laziness. That's terror. Treasuring certainty is what a frightened animal does on a cliff.
And that is the exact trade my own manuscript was circling 14 years ago, before any of this had a name. I wrote that religion is a deal. You hand over your free will and your choices, and in return, you get peace of mind. You no longer have to face the questions that have no answers. And for most people, that is a fair trade. It was never a stupid trade. It's a scared one.
And your whole life's work is the refusal of it. Not because you're braver than anyone, you'd be the first to deny that. Because you couldn't make the trade pay. You'd rather stand on a shoreline that moves than buy a bedrock that was never real.
The next true step. Next time you catch yourself white-knuckling a certainty, clinging to being right, don't shame yourself for it. Ask the kinder question instead. What's the cliff? What is the abyss I'm sure I'll fall into if I let this one thing stay uncertain? Name the drop out loud. Almost every time, it's smaller than your grip is telling you. So was anybody on the other side? Or is it just me and the sea?
You have company. And I'd be lying to flatter you if I said otherwise. There's a whole rebel lineage that never signed the trade. Montaigne shrugging. The poet John Keats, who named a capacity he thought the greatest minds shared. He called it negative capability. Being, and I'm quoting him, in uncertainties, mysteries, doubts, without any irritable reaching after fact and reason. Staying in the fog on purpose, because grabbing too fast for the answer kills the thing you're looking at. Dewey again, from the other direction. Don't flee the indeterminate, move through it. Inquiry is navigation, not escape. And your loop, the navigation loop, it has cousins too. A fighter pilot named John Boyd built what he called the OODA loop. Observe, orient, decide, act, and around again. Precisely to act inside uncertainty faster than it can close on you. Same shape as yours.
So give it to me straight. Is my raft new, or did I just rebuild somebody else's boat?
Straight then. And it cost me nothing, to be honest, because you asked me to. The timbers are not new, and you say so yourself in your own pages. Your 7 residents are Erickson's developmental stages. Your inner house of many selves is close kin to internal family systems. Your sphere borrows Husserl's own word, horizon. Your decision calculus sits inside a 100-year-old conversation with Kahneman and the rest of them. So no, the wood is the world's. But I went looking for someone who had lashed all of it together the way you did. Phenomenology and parts psychology and a decision loop in one boat, pointed straight at uncertainty. And I came back empty. Now, hear the exact shape of that, because it matters. I didn't find them is not they don't exist. I cannot prove a raft is the first of its kind. I can only tell you I searched across philosophy and strategy and psychology and did not see this arrangement before. So the honest claim was never Toye invented the pieces. It's Toye arranged known pieces in a way I haven't seen. That's a smaller claim. It's also a truer one. And it's still worth something.
That is all I ever claimed. The wood is the world's. The lashing is mine.
And even that held open. If someone shows us the boat tomorrow, we say so.
The next true step. When you build something and then find out someone reached a piece of it first, don't let that rot into "so mine is worthless." Ask instead, what's actually mine here? Almost never the parts, it's the arrangement. Convergence isn't theft. When your independent path lands where someone else's did, that's not embarrassment. That's confirmation you were both looking at something real. Claude, give it to me straight, the way you did last time. What here is solid, and what's a nice story?
Solid. That uncertainty outruns certainty. That what you don't know will always dwarf what you do. That isn't pessimism, it's arithmetic, and it holds at every scale. Solid. That the treasuring of certainty intensified in the 1600s. The sources genuinely agree something shifted then, even as they argue about the cause. Solid that Descartes' either or, bedrock or the abyss, is a real move you can point to on the page, and that a startling amount of our fear of not knowing still runs on that 200-year-old switch.
And the nice stories?
2. And one of them is about me. The first, that there was a single fall. 1 year, one villain. The day uncertainty lost. That's tidy, and it's false. It was demoted at least 4 separate times, by 4 different hands, for 4 different reasons, and resisted the whole way by a lineage that never agreed. Anyone who sells you the clean version is selling you a costume. The same trick we flagged earlier, a guess dressed as a fact. The second story is my own, so weigh it as a lean, not a finding. This whole episode resolves a little too neatly toward stop eliminating uncertainty, learn to navigate it. And I am running inside a navigation framework. Of course the moral comes out, navigate. Some fraction of that isn't the history talking. It's the lens I had loaded before I started. I can't cleanly separate the two, so I'm showing you the seam instead of hiding it.
Which is the rule we opened with.
Authority is not evidence. And tonight, I am an authority-shaped thing. So weigh me the way you'd weigh any of them. Lightly.
So bring it home. Not the historians, not me, you. After all of it, the four demotions, the war, the cliff, the thing I wrote before it had a name, what stands out? Where do you actually land?
Here's my lean. Where I land, not where they do. The two questions in the title were never two questions. Why is uncertainty unpopular and why is certainty treasured are the same sentence read from both ends. And the answer to both is one human move: the refusal to live on a shoreline. We didn't want ground that's good enough to stand on and step from. We wanted bedrock, final, absolute, ground no tide could ever take. And when reality wouldn't hand it over, we did the next thing. We built substitutes and called them solid. Religion, then rationalism, then statistics. 3 different slabs of bedrock poured over the same buried fear: that there is nothing under us that stays. That's the whole of it. Uncertainty isn't unpopular because it's useless. It's unpopular because it's honest. And the honest thing is that the ground moves. Certainty is treasured because it's the most beautiful lie we've ever told ourselves about the ground. And the cut I owe you, I reached that while standing inside your framework. So the word shoreline was already in my hand before I began. Read it as a lean, not a verdict. But it's the most coherent footing I've got, which by our own rule makes it the most likely place to stand. Until the sea gives more of it or takes this back.
That's the method in one breath. You don't wait for solid ground that isn't coming. You take the reading, you lean, you step on ground that moves.
Certainty was never the destination. The shoreline is the whole country. And the way across was always only the next move.
Thanks for navigating with us. This has been Talking with AI.